ladies and gentlemen, cats and kittens, boys and girls. I am Commodore, and I hope all is war and well in your world. I'm here to entertain, maybe make you laugh, perhaps a smile or two. But if you'd rather go watch someone else, then I can't blame you.
So what you just saw was something that happened after the last episode, after I recorded the last episode. Have you ever, like, you turn off the game and then you're going down and you hit the wrong button, or your brain says, "Wait, I need to turn this off," and instead you start it up again? Well, that's what I accidentally did. I don't know why. I don't know why. And that was the screen that I got. Now that indicates to me that I may have run out of things to do in this game. It's very possible. So this could be the last episode of this game, because I don't know what else I could do differently. I think I've done everything that I had done with the bucket now. So I don't know. Let's see what happens. But I clicked it and it started that
This is
up.
the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened. this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Did I do the very end with the bucket? The actual ending of the game? I'm not sure now that I think about it that I did. But I could have. Oh. Okay. Okay. Hold on. I need to write that down. Hold on. I need something. Oh, come here. Will that work? That'll work. Maybe? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Because I think I know where most of those are. Oh, look at that. Maybe we are the collectibles. Been in there, done that.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Yeah.
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini-stands? Stanley figs? Or what about Stanlerines? Yes.
Oh, I
think
like that.
like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
Okay. And the other one.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
Okay, I'm trying to think, because this is where I thought that meant, but where else was there a fireplace?
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Was there a fireplace in Stanley's house?
2845. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the
Because that's the
bucket
only
moved
other
along?
place I could think
Was
of.
the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Hey!
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number
like
in the corner of your
Stanlerines.
screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
So this is... Which one is this? This one must be nearby a fireplace. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we're missing large room, lots of boxes, and somewhere both red and blue.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate.
I probably wouldn't have fucked
It
with
would be
them
all
if they
Stanley
hadn't
could do
given
to
me
keep
those
himself
clues.
together, if not for the bucket.
But that was the
Soothing
intention
him,
of the game.
comforting him, reassuring
Luring
him
you
this
in.
darkest moment of uncertainty.
Luring
He
you
would be
into
right.
their trap.
The bucket is here for you, Stanley.
Keep playing the
Everything
game.
will be fine.
Find more stuff. Look, there's more stuff. I'm on to you. I'm on to you, Perry. I know your game.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
I don't think there's any place going this way. No, because I'm going in here, and it's going to be over. But we'll do this because, like I said, I'm not sure.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
I feel like, though, I may have done this with the bucket.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
Okay, maybe not. I don't remember cradling the bucket.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place?
That is an excellent question.
These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
That's true. Bucket is my only friend.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
Okay.
When at last they came to the source of the room's power, Stanley and the bucket knew it was their obligation to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for. Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both
That's
of
an
them
odd
wanted to begin
one.
watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and... What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket.
Clearly.
Lengths not to part with the
Not
bucket.
done this.
No. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
Where's my bucket? Where's my bucket?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Yeah, let's go this way. And we will turn it on instead of off. Yeah. Sweet.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
What was this one again? Okay, let's do this. Then we'll do that.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would. And he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Makes sense to me. The bucket is wise. The bucket knows.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read,
And we got to do the escape too. Yeah, there's a lot of shit. Okay, this won't be the last episode because there's a lot of shit left to do.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it.
No.
His own life in someone else's control, never!
I won't have it.
He squeezed the bucket tighter, his one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along?
Maybe.
To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again.
What?
Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best.
Oh, yeah.
And Stanley was happy.
Well, that's what matters. Okay. This is going to be a short one, but I think we're going to call it there. I want to stretch this out. And I don't, you know what I'm saying? I want to stretch this out. There's going to be some interesting things to do in the next episode, for sure. We're going to go, I think, we'll start with the, we'll start with the escape stuff first. We'll see how that goes. But I am going to call it there. This is one of those games, you know, it's... each episode is going to be relatively the same, but just a little bit different than the last one. It's... Why not make this a troll playthrough? Why not? It seems appropriate for the game. So, ladies and gentlemen, cats and kittens, boys and girls, thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed the further adventures of Stanley and Perry and their journeys through the mystery and wonderment of office life. If you did enjoy it, I would not hate for you to leave me a like, a comment, a share, or a subscribe. Any one of those things is immensely helpful for the channel. Helps it flourish and grow, and helps put, tell YouTube, hey, put me in front of people. Last month I was in front of a lot of people. I gained over 200 new subscribers, and I think around about 800 something watch hours, maybe 900. I was pretty happy with that. But, some stupid shit happened, and I let my premium lapse because I didn't realize when it was coming due, and blah, blah, blah. And, of course, without money, they dropped me right the fuck out of the algorithm. And I'd like to get back to it, so anything you can do to help would be awesome. Totally awesome. And while you're doing all that, like and comment, share, subscribe. Check out the rest of the shit on my channel. I've got all sorts of stuff. I've got over 1,000 videos. Yes, you heard that correctly when I said over 1,000 videos. I've got concerts I've been to with some pretty good seats at some of them. I'm going to tell you right now, they're pretty good seats. My original music that I write the lyrics to and give life through an AI app in the form of a 4-piece all-girl metal band. If you like screaming metal chicks, you will love The Circle. Check it out. And also, you can catch the lovely ladies of The Circle every Wednesday night on Wicked Wednesday Night. That is the women's division of my original character simulated wrestling federation. The men's division is on Monday. That's Monday Night Mania. And then I also have Tuesday Night Download, which is my female celebrity simulated wrestling federation. That's the WTF. And playthroughs, just so many. You just wouldn't believe how many playthroughs there are. Oodles and oodles of playthroughs. Maybe not oodles and oodles. Maybe just one oodles. Just one oodles. So check those out. Let me know what you think. Surely you'll find something there that might interest you. There's many different genres. And that just leaves me to say, ladies and gentlemen, cats and kittens, boys and girls, thank you once again. And until next time, later.